Welcome back, everybody. This is Jimmy. This is the Meet the Candidate series. Right now, we have a gentleman who is running for Cambridge City Council for his second time. Burhan Azeem is a second-time candidate for Cambridge City Council. He works at a housing policy nonprofit, Abundant Housing, and was an EMT in the fine city of Cambridge. He was the runner-up in 2019 and is hoping to make it to City Hall this time. Welcome to the show, Mr. Burhan Azeem. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on, Jimmy.
Of course. Thank you for running again.
It's a pleasure. The election is coming down, but I feel really good about our chances. I think it's going to be a close election, but, hopefully this time we'll make it in.
All right, great. Well, tell me, Burhan, why are you running for a second time, and what do you hope to accomplish?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jimmy. So I think that I'm running for two different reasons. One is a more personal reason. So I was born in Pakistan. I didn't come here till I was 4 years old. And my sister was born premature. And she was in the hospital for weeks and weeks and months. And we racked up lots of medical debt, more than we'd ever be able to pay off. But then my mom entered and won the lottery. But instead of the regular lottery, it was a Visa lottery. And I think about that moment a lot because that Visa lottery is how we came to the US. And it's not very often where you have like an event that happens when you're 4 years old that kind of determines your whole path in life. There's like a 1 in 10,000 shot. And I'm just very grateful to be here and have tried giving back to the community in every way I can. I worked as an EMT for a number of years. My jobs now are in like affordable housing at Abundant Housing, which we talked about a little bit. And also before that, I worked in COVID care, doing stuff for hospitals that had too many patients that they couldn't see them when they were over capacity. So really around healthcare and housing are places where I've been really trying to focus. And I would love to, have this opportunity to contribute to the community in Cambridge as well. I think the top issues I'm running on this time around like affordable housing. I think all the city councilors have a pretty good heart on it. But I think I have a little bit more of a technical experience. At Abundant Housing, we worked with like the mayors of Salem, Framingham, other cities and state legislatures around the housing policy that's worked in different places and hasn't. And I think I bring that level of expertise to City Hall.
Let me ask you there, Burnham, what would you advocate to be done in the city in terms of housing that's not being done now? In which camp, if any of the camps in the housing camps in Cambridge, do you gravitate toward or fall into?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was endorsed by A Better Cambridge. I actually served on their board a while back as well. So I guess if you want to put me into a camp, that would definitely be the camp. But I think, specifically around what we can do is, so for example, like the triple decker that I live in, and a lot of people in Cambridge live in, is like actually illegal under current zoning. If like an asteroid hits it tomorrow, my unit, my triple decker would not be able to be built as a triple decker. It actually have to be rebuilt as a duplex, 2 units. And I think that that's a sense of like, a place of like where Cambridge's housing policies kind of don't go very well. Cambridge is a big city. We have 120,000 people. And the US population right now is about 330 million. In 1950, Cambridge's population was about 150 million, but Cambridge was bigger then than it is now, even though the US population has more than doubled. And it's because of laws like that make triple deckers illegal in most of the city, but triple deckers are the most Cambridge thing that you can have. And the average triple decker is a lot cheaper for families than the equivalent of other forms of housing. If you have a single family home, 1,000 square feet, which is an average for about a 2.5 bedroom, costs about $800,000 in a single family home. But in a triple decker, that same size room is about $550,000. Not as affordable as we would like. And we can talk more about low income residents and what we can do there. But we also don't talk that much about middle income residents, like parents of young families, with young children, and like all the things that we can do there. And that's kind of why we're becoming a barbell society of just like very low income residents who we do support directly and very high income residents who can afford it on themselves. I'm really focused on that middle income group.
Right. So in terms of the housing policy now, you would want to expand the parameters for what would be legal in terms of housing in Cambridge. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a core piece of it.
And would that be height requirements too?
Yeah, I think in general, the biggest thing here is just like allowing triple deckers. I think that a lot of single family homes end up kind of being the same size as like a triple decker. They're just like much bigger and like kind of structured a little bit differently. But I think that just
Okay,
like legalizing triple deckers.
great. So what else? What else is on the agenda?
So I think that there's tenant protections that are really important, like the right to legal counsel, making sure that, during when you're facing an eviction, you don't really have the money to hire a lawyer, but having a lawyer on your side really helps your chances of not getting evicted. So the city can provide one there, as well as increasing the affordable housing overlay so we can have projects like 2072 Mass Ave, which was 48 units of affordable housing near transit. It was climate friendly, everything we were looking for, but was rejected under the current zoning. Besides that, I talk a lot about public health and safety. Being an EMT in the city, you kind of see a different part of the city.
Mhm.
And I think there's a lot we can do there. Like, for example, every night when I took the 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. shift, we would set our alarms to 1 a.m. because that's when the shelters would close. And a lot of people who were homeless or in otherwise difficult circumstances would purposely intoxify themselves so that we would come pick them up and then they would get a trip to the hospital where they get a warm meal and a place to stay for the night. And it's just a waste of resources and it doesn't help them. They're purposely harming themselves so that they have a place to sleep at night. I think we can do a lot better in terms of public health interventions like that.
Right. I would talk to homeless people that I would see in the morning, and I would see people sleeping, waking up in doorways. And I said to one couple one day, I call them a girl and a boy, but they were young people, probably 30. And they're in the sleeping bag. I said, "Why are you sleeping in the doorway? Why don't you go to the shelters?" And they said that they couldn't get into shelters unless they were intoxicated. And they were like, "There's no places," and not just Cambridge, but it's an issue in the state apparently. But in terms of this, Burhan, what do you see in terms of homelessness? Because there are some cities, L.A., San Francisco, Mass and Cass, that whatever we're doing is not working. So what would you suggest in terms of that? Because it's a front burner issue right here in the city.
Yeah, it's huge, especially near Central Square, which is where I live. I think that we need a yes and approach. Like, I think that we have a sense of trying to, classify homeless people as like one bucket, but they're really different segments within that.
Right.
You have some people who just weren't able to pay month's rent and they lost their apartment. I think those are people that you can really help support by giving them short-term stability in terms of like homes to sleep in, just getting people like a place to get started, setting them up with jobs connectors, and really meeting their immediate needs so they can like save up for a couple of months and then be able to get back on their feet. You also have people who have issues with substance abuse. And I think it's about recovering from that substance abuse, helping them with, injection sites and getting them medical treatment such that, they can really be able to get into a place where they can better themselves, and having a supervised shelter where they can really, have like this sort of continuous care they need because they're not in a place to really take care of themselves at that moment. But I think the general consensus here is that we need to like have a housing first approach where we trying to get everyone off the streets and get them into some sort of shelter, because it's really hard to get your life back on track when you don't have an address to, get posted at, or like, apply to jobs at, or have nice clothes, or, the basic fundamentals you really need to be able to like, help yourself.
Right. In terms of transportation, I know that's one of your top priorities. And in terms of tell me what your feelings are in terms of the outdoor dining. I ask all the candidates this because as a biker and a driver, I drive up and down Mass Ave and Broadway and up to Porter all the time. What are your feelings about can we have coexistence with outdoor dining, bike lanes, bus lanes, and automobile traffic, not to mention the pedestrians?
Yeah, it's a good question. Cambridge streets are pretty narrow, so it's hard to fit everything that we want on every street. I think the outdoor dining has been really great, and it's something that we should keep, especially because small businesses have been really hurt by the pandemic, and like now's not the time that we want to shut them out. I think it's in danger because it's not technically allowed under state legislation. It's because we have an emergency declaration that they're allowed. And so we really need to push in the next city hall term to make sure that we can continue using that space. I think in general, we need to be a little bit smarter about how we can fit everything. I think parking is an example where it's something really important for a lot of small businesses. But it also can be done a little bit on side streets or in larger parking garages, such that we have a little bit more space on some of our streets to be able to do other things, but also not lose that amount of like, parking and being visibility to customers for all of the stores. So I think that, we really need to revisit our streets in a holistic way and figure out like what street needs to do this thing, because they need to do that. Like Mass Ave is going to be our main transit corridor, but the other streets have like capacities where they can do one or two things as well.
Well, Burhan, what I hear you saying is peaceful coexistence.
Absolutely, Jimmy.
All right, great. So we're at our closing statement portion of the show right now. So please tell people, you give us your closing statement. Don't forget to mention your website, and in what priority should people consider you when they go into the voting booth?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Jimmy. I just wanted to say, it's my second time running. I have been trying all my hardest, and since when I ran last time and in the last 2 years of helping the community everywhere I can, I would love to be a representative and trying to help everyone in our community. It was really close election last cycle, and I think that if I could earn your #1 vote this year, we can really make it and make some big changes. If you want to learn more, you can visit my website at voteburhan.com. That's vote, BURHAN.com.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Burhan. I wish you the best. I will see you on the campaign trail. I also live in the Central Square area, and I think maybe between the both of us, we can help the homeless. How's that?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I think we live almost right next to each other, both on the sides of Dana Park. So
Right. Okay, great. I will see you in the neighborhood. Thank you so much, Burhan. Congratulations for running again, and thank you for putting your hat in the ring, and wishing you the best.
thank you so much, Jimmy.
Okay, bye-bye.